Okay, so we are here with Jason. And so I want to know your story a little bit, Jason. What is your history with the outdoors? Did you grow up enjoying the outdoors with your family, or were you just more of a city kid?
Um, it's kind of a mix of both. I really wasn't necessarily a city kid, but I wasn't necessarily a country kid either. I was kind of a little bit of both because my upbringing, um, I'd say for my first 10 years, was very colorful and different. We were kind of like gypsies. We just kind of moved moved around everywhere, and kind of wherever I was at was, kind of like the new place to explore. Um, you know, which I did. I did do a lot of exploring outside and stuff.
Oh, yeah, I can edit too.
Yeah, I gotta collect my thoughts.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so yeah, we did a lot of moving around a lot for the first 10 years of my life. Very different, gypsy-like, moving from place to place, probably not in one place for more than, 6 months or a
Oh,
year.
wow.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So a lot of different schools, learning how to make friends again and things like that. And there was a point where me and my mother and my father, they were together only for about 4 years, and then once they split off, my mom moved us up to Eugene from California, and from that point is really in my memory where I started becoming more into the outdoors. She actually got together with this gentleman who was a logger, and that was her boyfriend, and he liked to go into the outdoors a lot, so we started kind of doing more things outdoors. And then of course Eugene was really close to a lot of natural areas and things, so that's kind of was the start of my exploration of the outdoors. We used to go to the coast a lot, and because his family lived down at the coast. And at one point, because he was a logger, his job kind of jumped around and moved to different places because he would have like a contract in a certain area, and then he would move. We did become homeless for actually 3 months,
Oh, wow.
and we actually lived out in the woods, basically camped for like 3 months while he was in the middle of doing a contract in a certain area of the forest. So,
Wow. Do you
um,
remember which forest you lived in?
um, I can't remember. It was one of the coastal
Oh,
forests
okay.
outside between somewhere between Eugene and probably Florence,
Okay.
somewhere out there. I was
Wow.
young. I
Yeah.
was probably only about 6 years old,
Okay.
so pretty young. But yeah, we that whole homeless living in the woods camping thing. So, but that relationship between him and my mom, he was actually an alcoholic, and it got really physical and stuff with her, and then physical with us as well. And she was kind of scared for us as her kids, and she didn't want to leave him.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of one of
Because
the,
she was scared.
but yeah, because she was scared, but she was wanting to get us away from that. So
Mm-hmm.
she ended up sending us to our dad's, asking him if he would take us. And he lived in California, so we moved down to California at that time. And there in California, it really wasn't. This was like Southern California, so it was
Mm-hmm.
like city and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So there's not like, and I'm a young kid, and my dad really wasn't too much into the outdoors, so it was kind of like, that kind of all went away, that outdoorsy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So we lived down there for probably a year and a half, and then after that we moved up to a small Northern California town where his girlfriend's mom owned 18 acres of property outside town. And then that, when we did that in a little town called Alturas, and that is really when I found myself being really immersed into nature. Being a young kid, being on basically 18 acres of land, and being able to explore all around there. Plus it being out in the country and, given the freedom to go do that, pretty much whenever I wanted, I could just leave. I had lots of freedom, which is kind of weird thinking nowadays, we're so scared, letting our kids out to go roam around. And, at like 7 and 8, 9 years old, I'm like walking out my front door on my own, unattended by any parent, to go hike and explore for miles and do whatever I wanted, which I did.
Yeah.
So, which is really cool. And I remember back then, and I mean, it's like Northern California, which is, very similar to kind of like Bend.
Right. Dry, warm, hot.
Yeah, dry, warm, and hot, and, lots of sagebrush and, rock and stuff like that. I remember going out on my own and hiking down in through these canyons, and I found like basically a coyote den. And I was like above coyote dens, and I could see across and could see the coyotes just going in and out of their dens and stuff like that. And I'm out there by myself at like 8 years old
You're a small kid.
Yeah, and I'm like, yeah, it was really kind of cool and interesting. And I remember I used to, one thing that was really I enjoyed doing is I would like go and climb up trees, like big trees. I would climb up probably like 50, 100 feet up.
Wow.
Just like climb them. And then I would stop and I would look out around the whole area just to check out and see what surroundings were out and around me. So that was pretty cool. And it sounds kind of funny, but how, you maybe heard your parents say it was kind of like a funny thing where they said, yeah, you walked like 2 miles in the snow to get home and all that stuff.
Yeah, uphill both ways.
Yeah, I actually literally did that.
Right.
We lived, we were outside of town. We were like 10 miles outside of town, and we had to get a bus ride to, the school bus would come and pick us up. But it was a 2-mile walk, at least 2-mile walk to get to the bus stop, because they didn't drive up the country road.
Right.
So we would have to walk. And, I think back, I'm like, why weren't our parents getting up and giving us a ride? But they made us walk. So
they totally did.
me and my brother, we would walk like 2 miles down to the bus stop every day, and then the bus would pick us up. And then at the end of the day, we were like the last one on the route, so we'd be getting dropped off late in the day and then have to walk that 2 miles back up. And Northern California, where I lived, it was like snow. Yeah. I mean, you got like
and it
feet.
Was probably dark at that time.
Yeah, I mean, it was like starting to get dark, and then you're walking home in the snow, and then getting home late and stuff like that. So that was actually my reality, as a kid. So we lived out in the country for, a couple years, and then we ended up moving into town. And then, so I kind of lost some of that nature experience. And then after that, my grandmother, we used to go visit my grandmother in Oregon every summer, and some stuff was going on with my dad. He ended up leaving his girlfriend that lived in that town, and he took us back to California. And then my grandmother contacted him and said, hey, why don't you let me take the kids for, till you get yourself back together in wherever you're going to be at. And we ended up moving up with my grandmother for the summer, and it ended up turning out to be for the rest of my upbringing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we ended up pretty much, she basically raised us from that point on, and my dad was kind of out of the picture and has never really been back in the picture since I was 10 years old.
Wow.
So, and my grandmother, she was at the point that she took us in, she was about 50 years old, and she had already raised like 5 kids of her own.
Wow.
So she was into the outdoors, but she was a single mom,
right.
And she was, doing her own thing. So she ended up getting me involved in, because she wanted to keep me busy. She would, got me into Boy Scouts. So from that point, I started getting into, being in the outdoors through Boy Scouts, and which introduced me to backpacking and horseback riding and being in nature in that way. So that was a really positive experience. And then during the summer, my grandmother would take us and do nature type stuff. She would take us to the coast, take us up to Washington to like the Olympics, over to St. Helens, all kinds of like outdoor, nature type things. She would try to do that as like summer retreat type things. So that kind of continued, my nature experience through my younger years. I would say up until probably about like 13. And then at 13, I kind of became a teenager. And then from that point, I really kind of didn't do a lot of the hiking and the, doing that stuff. I kind of got into skiing and got into that as part of my outdoor experiences. Really got doing the skiing thing. And then that transitioned into snowboarding. And I did that for quite a few years. And then did hiking and camping and stuff like that. Camping a lot more than hiking, but did the hiking along with the camping during those years. But it was kind of like only like 3 times a year that I'd probably do that type of stuff. It was kind of more the mountain experience. And then that pretty much carried through to, I would say, my mid-30s. A lot of camping. And then in my mid-30s, I really started hiking more. Went with a couple of friends. We went to the coast. We did a short backpacking trip from Cannon Beach to Seaside.
Oh, cool.
And that really set it off. Again, the hiking and backpacking thing. And
was there something about that experience that like reinvigorated your love for that exploring and stuff like that?
Definitely. Just it kind of reignited my passion for being outdoors and seeing all that nature stuff again that I kind of really been missing in that way.
It sounds like through your childhood the outdoors kind of was the one constant, because it sounds like you had kind of a turbulent childhood with all the moving and your parents and whatever, and the outdoors was kind of like this constant that you could always like go back to and be in.
Definitely. When I was younger, I kind of, and even now, it's kind of been kind of an escape to get away, clear my head, kind of rejuvenate and get focused and, to get back at things.
Right.
So that's really, I've kind of used it as that kind of just like a sanctuary to go out and just clear my head. So, which I think a lot of people do.
Yeah.
But so after that trip, that really ignited my passion for, hiking and backpacking. And from that point, I just really started getting into it, doing a lot more hiking, taking my daughter hiking with me, getting her involved in it, and then did that for a couple years, and then that led up to a section hike that I did. And
the PCT.
PCT, yeah, my first section hike. And I did it with a couple of guys, and then when I did that, it was a game changer for me. It was after that, it was like I was just so hooked to backpack and just hike, and I was like basically started planning my next section hike from that point. It was just like, okay, this is what I want to do. Yeah, this is what I want to do. This is the thing that's been missing in my life, and it's like, okay,
more like the long distance
yeah. So, and from that point, it was just, okay, starting to train. I trained for like a year and a half. And then, in between, I'm hiking and stuff and doing all that stuff. And then about a year and a half after training, getting in really good shape, then I did. I was trying to attempt to do the entire Oregon leg, but I only got about 175 miles into it before I kind of got an overuse injury in my ankle, so I had to kind of pull out. But it was still a good experience, and I did it specifically solo because I wanted to be able to meet people on the trail. I wanted to have that experience of me out there meeting people and having relationships with these people, and with no one to worry about that I had to stay with or catch up back and forth thing, the way it was on my first trip, where we were kind of waiting around for each other, because we're all kind of separate, and then come back and meet up, where I could just do what I want when I wanted to do it and hang out with the people when I wanted to do that. So it was kind of more of a freeing thing, and I really enjoyed it. It was really nice. So, yeah, that was great. I've since pretty much completed the entire Oregon leg. I've pretty much gone back and done all the little parts that I missed. So
that's what I'm trying to do now.
Yeah, so it's nice. And then I've kind of I got into more mountaineering stuff too, snowshoeing, summiting mountains, and things like that. It's just, you just kind of keep extending out different little things of exploring in nature and different avenues of that whole thing, because you just want to see more and experience more.
Different things. Yeah, you do a lot of overlanding too, right? So that's another I guess avenue to explore the outdoors as well.
Yeah. I've recently, over the past couple years, got into overlanding. I sold my Subaru. I bought a Jeep. A couple of my buddies have Jeeps, and their Jeeps are outfitted. Mine's well on the way to be there. Yeah, it's well on the way there. It's not quite to their level, but yeah, it's been a journey, and we do a lot of the overlanding and camping and stuff, which is really, it's an extension of kind of everything that I already do. It just gives me more options, being able to drive up to maybe more remote destinations, because I have more of a heavy duty rig, setting up a base camp, doing hikes from that location. And
it's a different kind of exploring, I guess.
Yeah. So it gives you the ability to, go out and camp if that's all you want to do, or you can also throw in going to areas where you can do hiking too. And then instead of, be a situation where you have to keep going backpacking, you can actually come back to camp and have kind of more of a luxury experience.
Right. With actual food and drinks and whatever not you want to have.
Yeah. So you can go out and have your day thing, exploring and getting in places where, you can't take your car, but then you can come back to the car and have a really nice camp to relax and hang out at. Yeah. And then move on and go to the next place.
How has your hiking journey changed throughout, from the beginning, I guess?
Well, it started out just hiking, and then it went to section hiking, and then now it's kind of just exploring. It's I'm not really set on any one specific thing. A lot of people will just get into this is what I do. I just do long distance section hiking. Right. And, that's kind of what I'm all about, having the lightest pack and gear in the world. And I'm kind of all encompassing everything. I'm not in one specific niche. There for a while, I kind of was leaning towards, the long distance sectioning thing or anything on that level. But now I'm just kind of everything. So it's not just one specific thing anymore. I like overlanding, day hiking, long distancing. It's
snowshoeing, climbing mountains, right, everything.
Just whatever presents itself, that's kind of, what I'm there for.
It's in the outdoors, right?
Exactly. Just immersing myself in the outdoors.
What are some lessons that you learned being in the outdoors or through being in the outdoors? Could be personal lessons or just, general gear things or both?
I've learned that we have way more than we need. We definitely do not need all the things that we have to survive and to make it through our day.
That's a really lesson. I like that.
Yeah, we have just way more stuff than we need. So, which it makes you want to downsize things. It has helped me personally build self-confidence and in this myself and what I'm capable of, and learning, things that I can do that I never thought that I could do.
Yeah.
It's definitely, all those different things. So, for sure.
I like that. What is currently one of your favorite things about being in the outdoors, or going hiking or backpacking?
Oh God, that's such a hard question. Because there's so many different things.
Right.
There's hard to narrow it down to one thing.
Could be a multitude of things.
I think the one thing for me personally, it's kind of it gives you a short escape to be able to get out and maybe work through something you got going on in your life, something that you need to think about or work through. It gives you that time to kind of get out there and that space to be able to work through that. That's kind of one of my favorite things about it, is just, and I typically, I do a lot of solo stuff, and I try to incorporate people into my experiences, but I'm kind of a solo guy. I've kind of realized that. I really enjoy it. I really enjoy being out there alone.
Yeah.
I do like, I take my dog, of course, but, I enjoy being out there alone, but I do like having people around from time to time.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, and then I guess my last question that I ask everyone is, what is a message you would like to share with listeners? Could be anything, like an inspirational quote, or something that has, helped you in a specific way, a place that you'd like to share, or a tip about getting started in the outdoors, or anything like that.
I would say that if you've been wanting to go into the outdoors, if you've been wanting to go do anything in that capacity, go try it. On any level that you want to do, don't feel like you've got to go out and spend a bunch of money on gear to get started. Take what you have currently and go use it, and just go see what that experience is like. And, if you like it, great. Maybe you start investing a little bit of money into it. And when you can, just don't let that hold you back. And you're more capable of what you know. So just go try it.
There you go. I love it. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast, Jason. It was a pleasure to have you here.
You're welcome. Thank you.